How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
It's a new football season. Familiar names like Antonio Brown, he's changed teams, he's on the Raiders. Le'Veon Bell's with the New York Jets. Odell Beckham Jr.'s in Cleveland. However, the one thing that hasn't changed is where I put my money when I bet on games. MyBookie.ag is the place to bet on the biggest games every single week. MyBookie.ag has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sportsbook, period. This year, they're even hosting the first online handicapping super contest. First place is guaranteed to win $100,000, and it only costs $100 to enter. All you have to do is pick 5 games against the spread every week, climb the leaderboard, and cash in your share of the huge prize pool. MyBookie.ag has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They also have the most rewarding player perks in the business. And for you fantasy guys out there, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score in each game. When you sign up at MyBookie.ag, they'll match up to $1,000 for your first deposit with promo code Detroit100. Visit MyBookie.ag today. That's MyBookie.ag and use promo code Detroit100. That's DETROIT100 to get up to $1,000 in bonus money. MyBookie.ag is always the right play. You bet, you win, they pay.
Fellas, what if I told you there was a way you could increase your performance in the bedroom? You could get that extra confidence to please your lady friend. Listen up, BlueChew.com. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. Blue Chew is the fast and easy solution for any man looking to enhance their performance and step up their game. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package, so no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. Why not be the MVP of the bedroom? You know that there's opportunity to enhance your experience, enhance the pleasure. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code Detroit. All you got to do is just pay the $5 shipping and handling fee. That's BlueChew.com, promo code Detroit. BLUE Chew.com. BlueChew.com, promo code Detroit to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John McEnroe, joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? Looking forward to this conversation.
Just another day in paradise, my man. We get to talk a lot of Lions. We got college football around the corner. This is going to be exciting, man. This is the time of year that we live for.
Your boy got a chance to enter an NFL locker room, have a conversation with a running back who I put in my first annual 53-man roster projection from the DOC. 2 hours later, he's cut.
So the curse lives on, huh?
The curse lives on, and I'm messaging you, I'm messaging Vito, I'm like, what do you think of the questions? What do you think of the responses? Should I air it? And I'm like, I really did think that Zach Zenner was going to make this team because he's a grinder. He's a guy that you think could represent what the Lions could be about, in that he has limited carries, he hasn't been used a lot, but at the end of the day, when he was given the ball, he was productive. But in the NFL, I'm realizing, and everybody's realizing, it's a business where if there's somebody out there with maybe 2% better talent, your ass is getting cut. And I'm so curious. I just wonder, did he know that he was cut and still accepted an interview from me and still answered those questions? Because I asked him directly, but I asked it in a way that kind of made, it sound like I was indicating that he was in the lead. I asked him directly, it's a heavy competition for running back. What's your mindset? And it was crazy that he was cut 2 hours later. And, the news was broke on Wednesday. The Lions did indeed add another running back for that room. It's a tough business, man. There's always competition, and you never know. I think in football, someone should always be telling you, whether it be your handler or your agent, at any time, you got to be sharp. You got to be on your game, because at any time, you could be cut at any time.
No, you're absolutely right. And those guys know that. They know it's next man up. They know that any day could be their last day. They're totally aware of that. I found it to be funny that Zenner was cut myself. I thought for sure he was going to make it. I think it's strange that the Detroit Lions are going to go as thin as they're going to go at running back. I haven't had a chance to look at your projections, but Kerryon Johnson's going to be the starter. C.J. Anderson's going to be the backup. Ty Johnson was a draft pick, so he's going to make the roster essentially by default. And then you've got Nick Baldwin, who is a fullback. So those guys right there are in. You've got 4 running backs, essentially 3 running backs, and you've got a fullback. Now, Kerryon Johnson hasn't been able to be healthy his entire college career and his professional career. So it strikes me as odd that they're putting so much trust and so much emphasis in this small running back core. I would think that you would want Zenner on this roster just as a safety net, as a precaution. Maybe he makes the practice squad. Maybe they release him. Maybe nobody picks him up. Maybe he comes back and signs a deal to be on the practice squad. That way, if they do need him, they can just bring him up. But I found it to be strange. And he's a fan favorite. Everybody loves him. He's a guy who does perform. He only gets a limited role, like you said, but whenever he goes out there, he picks up hard, tough yards. He's a guy who can run between the tackles and move the pocket, and not move the pocket 2 yards. He's a guy who can move the pocket 3, 4, 5, 6 yards. And if he can catch an edge, if they ever call a play like that for him, which they rarely do, he can pick up 15, 16 yards at a clip. It's weird. He was a guy who they kind of took a flyer on him. He came in and he performed. And I think he performed better than everybody expected. And he was never really given a chance to really, I think, lay it all out there or put it all out there. So it does surprise me that they let him go. I was shocked that he was let go. And I thought you did a really good job with your questions. I thought your Q&A with him was spot on. I thought you asked good questions. And he might have known. He might have known. And when another guy gets brought into the room, you can kind of start doing the math. You're like, all right, cool. So he's in. Like, who's above you. And you're like, okay, well, he's in because he's the only guy who plays this role. So now what does that mean for me? So he might have known. Spot on. He might have known. And he still took that interview. So he's a good guy, man. He really is. He's a dude who wants to go on to be a doctor. He's a really smart individual. And it really sounds like we're all opining for Zach Zenner right now. But he's a guy who I feel like should have got more of a legitimate shot, and hopefully he gets picked up by another team. I mean, Houston just lost their running back. They need another guy. Maybe he can go to Houston and maybe he can pan out for them. I mean, they've seen him with the joint practices. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Lions on Wednesday, they signed running back James Williams. I do think, and you were spot on, I did have in my 53-man roster, I had the 3 running backs and the fullback, so including Zach Zenner. So I was surprised because of the fact that sometimes there's this one guy on the roster that's a glue guy, that's an attitude guy, and the guy ran hard. He was productive. I think that's why the fan base gravitated toward him so much, in that he would only get 5 carries, but in those 5 carries, he'd always break off an 8-yard run, and he'd be tough runs, and he'd always, he represented, what the fan base likes. But
real quick, look back at last year. Look what happened when Kerryon Johnson went down. He was a guy who they had to lean on, and when they leaned on him, he was their second best running back, only to Kerryon Johnson.
See,
he's a guy who has talent.
He has talent, but at the end of the day, I think the Lions believe that there were guys that have more talent, and you expressed concerns regarding Kerryon Johnson. Look, if you spread it out correctly, with C.J. Anderson, with Nick Bowden, with carries that you're going to give to Kerryon, and then the passing game with the weapons, you probably are not going to give Kerryon Johnson the ball 24 times a game. I think ideally they want Kerryon to get the ball anywhere between 18 and 23 times a game, and they want to utilize C.J. Anderson, utilize the fullback, utilize the tight ends, so that they're thinking they want to utilize Kerryon to extend his career and let him be productive and be on the field. I don't see Kerryon being a 30 carry a game back. I don't think so, because the more carries per game that he gets, I think the sooner he gets injured, and I think the Lions' plan is to spread it out amongst all the weapons that they have on offense. And if they do that, I think it'll bode well for them. I think Kerryon could be protected, especially if they utilize and spread the carries out correctly.
Oh, I think he needs to be protected. Until he can make it through an entire 16-game season unencumbered, he needs to be protected. And I think your estimation is a little bit high. I think they need to get him the ball maybe 15 to 17 times a game. And if you want, you can incorporate him in the pass game, throwing him, 5 or 6 different targets a game and let him kind of move around in space. But I think giving him the ball anywhere from 18 to 23 times, I think that's going to rack up a toll on his body. And I don't know if he can withstand that, especially for a 16-game season, if he's lucky enough to make it through that far. So it'll be interesting to see how he's utilized. But I think you're right. They do need to protect him. And the way this offense is being put together, with the players that they have, and with the way the scheme's going to be called, I think it is being devised to help insulate him and to make sure that he can make it through a 16-game season.
Yeah, and I know that Zach Zenner was a fan favorite, but at the end of the day, this team needs as many talented individuals as possible. You're not going to have that many guys that maybe have subpar talent but are good guys in the room. You got to have guys that are talented. You got to believe that you're putting the best 53 men that you can find on your roster, because it's so tough, especially in the landscape of the NFC and things like that. So it's tough. It's a tough business, and Zach Zenner obviously has now been cut for the second time, but I think he has an opportunity at least to catch on somewhere else, and maybe it will be in Houston. But I do want to go back to the game versus Buffalo. Many people definitely after that game were freaked out because of the injuries. People were freaked out because, oh my gosh, the Lions are cursed. You and I went back and forth going, come on.
We were messaging.
Yeah, we're like, come on. 2 plays in and Jared Davis is hurt. Frank Ragnow goes out. After that game, I probably never felt lower being a supporter of the Detroit Lions, because I'm like, come on. It's the dress rehearsal. It's supposed to be what, we all expect to see in the regular season, and in a season where it's so critical that the Lions take the next step, you could not afford any injuries. And thankfully, at least in terms of the early prognosis, Jared Davis and Frank Ragnow are going to return. Ragnow probably much sooner than Jared Davis. But at the end of that game, it was super tough, but I'm thankful that, potentially speaking, that those guys are going to return. Those injuries could have been so devastating to the 2019 season.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can't afford to lose a guy like Jared Davis. And linebacking core is so thin on this Detroit Lions roster right now that you're leaning heavily on him. This is his 3rd year. You're looking at him to take that next step forward. You want him to be able to take over this defense and to really put his thumbprint on it. And to see him go down I think it was the second play of the first quarter against the Bills. He gets rolled up on, and you're like, oh crap, is it an Achilles? If it's an Achilles injury, he's done for the year. What does that mean for this linebacking core? What does this mean for this team? How do they rebound? Because they don't have the depth. There's nobody you can go out and you can grab who's going to be as good as Jared Davis. There's nobody out there. I don't care who it is. I don't care who just got cut. Nobody. If somebody's getting cut right now, there's a reason they're getting cut. All right? That's because they're not as good as Jared Davis. And for you to lose a guy like Jared Davis, no matter how many games you're going to miss him, because at this point, I'm assuming you're going to miss him for at least the first 2, probably the first 4 games is my estimation. And I know they don't want to put him on IR, and I know that Matt Patricia isn't really saying anything, but the way he got rolled up on, the way he limped off, it looks like it's not a good injury. It looks like it's a bad injury. And this is something that I think is going to impact the beginning part of the season. And you don't want him to rush coming back, because if he rushes coming back, it's just going to hamper him later on down the line. You want him to come back and you want him to be 100% healthy, but I don't know if they have the team, and I don't know if they have the depth on this roster to be able to withstand an injury like that or withstand a blow like that. And that's my big concern, because the moment it happened, you're right, me and you were messaging back and forth, and we're like, oh, Jesus Christ, not this, not now. This is game 3. Like, you just have to make it through this first quarter, and then you can just go sit down on the sideline. You couldn't even make it through the first 2 plays, and this is happening. So both of us were freaking out. And you're right, it was a low point. Thankfully, Frank Ragnow's okay. Ragnow's not too beat up. It looks like it's just a minor ankle sprain. He should be good to go by week 1. But, man, Jared Davis, that's a huge loss for this team. That is a monster loss for this team, because he is the linchpin of that linebacking core. He is probably your best linebacker. I mean, you could make an argument for another guy. I'd love to hear it. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jared Davis is your best linebacker. And your linebacking core isn't very good.
Both individuals, especially when you look at it, they were first-round picks. The Lions invested heavily in them, and they could potentially not be there. But at the same time, they have a little bit improved the depth at linebacker with Jelani Tavai and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Tease Tabor is going to be in the mix as well. You know, he's a guy that, if you're paying attention to roster battles, is going to be right there at number 53, 54. He's going to be somebody that's going to be gripping on Saturday. He's got to figure out.
Jalen Reeves-Maybin has taken nice steps forward.
Yes,
he really has. I want to compliment him. He's taken very nice steps forward. He looks like a guy who has put a lot of it together this year, which is nice to see. All that being said, he still doesn't give you the production that Davis does.
Yep, and the biggest question mark I think people have is who's going to be alongside Darius Slay in the secondary, and who's going to step up, who's going to be tasked with covering elite wide receivers. So that'll be a question mark. And this Saturday, man, it's going to be a tight situation. I like it though. Actually, many people are noticing that, okay, all 90 people stay in camp, and then Saturday you lop off 36 people, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And it's a major cut all at once. So could you imagine, cuz, doing all that work, in training camp, you play the 4 preseason games, and then you're let go on the final day? That's got to be so tough. And it's different because in years past, if you got cut, when they were cutting the roster down to 73 or 76, then you had a chance to catch on somewhere else, where now it's really tight for these guys. They got to really try their absolute best to make the roster, because if you get let go, it's going to be a little bit tighter, a lot more competition to get that other job if you do, in fact, get released. It makes for a stressful week, and it's been interesting to be around the guys in that setting, knowing that, hey, this is crunch time, and especially today's game versus Cleveland, a lot of these guys, it could be their final NFL snap. So even though some people will say that, hey, the preseason means nothing, for the guys, at roster spots 50, 51, 52, 53, it's super important, because they get to earn a contract, and a fairly decent contract, and an opportunity to play NFL football.
Do you like that they kind of condense everything down into one day now?
It makes it a little bit easier to cover, yeah, because you get to kind of see who's right now. I think, potentially speaking, my projected 53-man roster is going to be pretty much close to what's on the team. You might have maybe 3 or 4 positions that change in terms of basically one battle at offensive line, one battle at in the secondary, and things like that. But I think I'm pretty close to what's actually going to be on the roster.
Yeah, see, I like it. I think it works better for the team this way. For the players, it sucks, because you're right. You don't have a chance to latch on with another team. If you get cut, the way it used to go, you used to get cut as the games kind of went along. And if there was an injury to another team, you could go try out. You could maybe get put on their team, and then you have a shot to make the roster. It doesn't work like that anymore. You take 96 guys into camp with you, and then it gets weeded down to maybe 90, and then from there it gets chopped down to the 53-man roster. And you're right. It's easier to cover for us, and it's, I think, better and easier on the teams, because they get to see more of the guys. Instead of having to make quick decisions on guys, you can let them go a little bit longer, and I think it gives you a more accurate picture of what their capabilities are and where they might fit in with your team and with your scheme. So I like it a lot better. I think it sucks for the players because, like I said, they don't have a chance to latch on with anybody. But it's one of those things where I think the NFL figured it out and got it right. Do you think that the Detroit Lions are going to carry 3 quarterbacks this season? Because after watching that game against Buffalo, I think Matt Stafford got into his rhythm a little bit late, which was nice, shook off some rust. But you've seen what happened to Tom Savage earlier this preseason. He got his brain rattled. They just cut David Fales. They just brought in another guy, Luis Perez, and they've got Josh Johnson. So you've got a couple quarterbacks here, and the Detroit Lions the last couple years have only carried 2. And you could argue that they have the worst, and actually I'll make the argument, they have the absolute worst QB room in all of the NFL right now. I don't know if there's a team out there that has a more depressing QB room, because after Matt Stafford, and the verdict's out there on Matt Stafford, right? Either you love him or you hate him. It's generally 50-50. It's a coin flip with that guy. After that, it's like Ringling Brothers Circus. It's a complete crap show. You've got Tom Savage, who is a walking concussion, Luis Perez, who comes in from the AAF, and then you've got Josh Johnson, who's on his, 9th team? What do we say? It was the 9th team or 13th team in like 9 years. Is that what it is? So, I mean, he's just kind of bounced around the league. You've got a bunch of journeymen backing up your quarterback. I could see this could be a season where I see they keep 3 guys, and it's just because they don't know what they have with Tom Savage. Because if for some reason Matt Stafford gets hurt and Tom Savage goes in and then Tom Savage gets his brain rattled, who are you going to throw in as your quarterback? Are you going to put a wide receiver in there and have him play QB? Or are you going to have a running back go out there and play QB? What are you going to do in a game where 2 of your quarterbacks possibly go down? I could see a scenario where they keep Matt Stafford. Of course, he's your starter. Then you've got Tom Savage as your number 2, and then you've got Josh Johnson as your number 3, and Luis Perez gets signed to your practice squad.
Yeah, I know it makes sense, but at the same time, you really, alongside the offensive line, defense, you do need a little bit more depth. So the Detroit Lions, I believe, are going to carry 2 quarterbacks. And so the big situation, the big evaluation you're going to see is between Tom Savage, if he takes the field today, versus Cleveland, and Josh Johnson. Luis Perez, many people are going to slot him as the practice squad quarterback. So likely you bring him on to get him in the system and see if he's a guy that fits. I think they're going to cut probably one of the 2. And by all accounts, from what you hear, from when you dig a little bit and ask, the Lions really like Tom Savage. You know, obviously he has a relationship. He understands what's going on. He's got the veteran presence. And unfortunately, I know, Lions fans and you and I and everybody that's logical says, well, if Stafford does go down, who's next? Well, the Lions are operating from the perspective now, you can just call it a fact. They're operating on the perspective of, hey, we just need a body in the room. We don't need anybody with talent. We need a body. We need somebody that's going to just get in Matthew Stafford's ear. We don't really want them on the field. And if they are on the field, forget about it anyway. We know we're going to lose, and it's just a loss anyway. So, unfortunately, that's not really the mindset that you or I or the fans want to have.
I was going to say, is that a horrible mindset? As a football team, that's an awful mindset to have.
But unfortunately, there's only so many resources that you can divulge to a position, and the Lions have pushed their chips to Matthew Stafford. So they're like, he's been a guy that's been on the field. He'll play with a broken back.
Dude,
so we got to do what you got to do.
But see, this goes back to our conversation we had a couple podcasts ago. Probably, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, where we talked about there not being enough of a challenge for a guy like Matt Stafford. The Detroit Lions don't push this guy. Yeah, I think it's great. Matt Stafford pushes himself. He had a really crappy offseason, right? His wife had a brain tumor. Thank God she's okay. Now she can go on Instagram and she can go on all of her social medias and tell us about how we're awful fans, because that's what she does all the damn time. Kelly Stafford can go kick rocks most of the time. All that being said, there's nobody in that damn room who pushes this guy. Tom Savage is going to push you. Josh Johnson's going to push. I can't even get the guy's damn name right. Josh Johnson's going to push you. Like, what are we talking about here? This is such trash. And you're going to only allocate 2 guys Two guys. You're going to allocate your starter and then the guy who's a walking concussion to the position, to the most important position on the field. You're going to allocate two dudes. I know Matt Stafford's a warrior. I know the dude's strong as hell. I know he played with a broken back last year. Believe me, I'm aware. All that being said, the way that locker room is put together and the way this franchise insulates itself in case of a monster injury is so foolhardy and so stupid, it frustrates me as a fan, and it pisses me off. Because you could have everything clicking. Your defensive line looks disgusting, and that should help out your weak linebacking core. Because honestly, guys, the linebacking core is not great. And hopefully Darius Slay returns to form, and he doesn't look like he looked at the beginning of last year. Hopefully he looks like that Pro Bowl caliber corner that we've all known to love. I think your secondary is going to be very good. All right, so pretty much it's incredible and it's very good, and in the middle you kind of got a crap sandwich with your linebacking core. I think all that helps balance it out because it's a team game, and when you play defense, you got to lean on everybody. All right, now when you look at the offense, what are we talking about here? If something bad happens to Matt Stafford, if something happens to your quarterback, who do you have to lean on? Tom Savage? Tom Savage hasn't been able to get through a preseason game yet because he got his brain scrambled. And that's the guy who's going to back up your quarterback? That's what you've got. That's all you have. Yeah. I just think it's dumb the way they do this. And I get that you need to allocate other guys to other positions, but Jesus Christ, man. Matt Stafford is the key here. Matt Stafford goes down, so then it's Tom Savage. So then what are we doing? We're just waving the white flag? As an organization, you should have been out in front of this, and you should have been trying to get guys in here. I mean, hell, Ryan Fitzpatrick was available. You could have went and grabbed that guy. You know what he's done in his NFL career? He started games. He's won games. He helped get teams close to the playoffs. Tom Savage? Not really. It frustrates me, and it makes me mad. It upsets me because if something bad happens to Matt Stafford, if for some reason that offensive line breaks down, and hell, you seen Frank Ragnow twist his ankle up real good on Saturday against Buffalo. So if something happens to that offensive line, now you got to roll pieces in there, and what if those pieces aren't as good as what was there? Good luck, Matt Stafford. Don't die. Yeah, and that's basically what you're telling him.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's just the scenario in which the Lions have decided to go. Whether you agree or disagree, I think one side says, hey, add depth, push Matthew Stafford. The other side says, hey, we put this much money into him. If he's in, we're good. If he's not, oh, well, so sad. There's nobody else that we want in there anyway. So that's just the attitude they've chosen, and we got to live with it. It's bad, but that's what they've chosen to do. They've taken a stance.
It's dumb. I just think it's dumb.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
Go find somebody out there who you don't feel sorry about yourself for putting them in there if something bad happens to Matt Stafford. Some guy who, I don't know, maybe in 2 or 3 years can take a step forward and maybe he becomes your starter because you don't want to pay Matt Stafford another ridiculous contract. I don't know. Maybe do what good organizations do. Just saying.
What was your impressions of what you saw from Matthew Stafford? Should he have been out there even in that game at home versus Buffalo?
I think so. And I think you've seen it, especially early. He looked a little bit rusty. It looked like he needed to get his feet underneath him. His first couple series, I don't think were very good. But as he was out there and as it kind of wore on, he seemed to kind of get his rhythm. And I think it was good for him to be out there. I was surprised he was out there as long as he was, especially when you had a guy like Jared Davis and Frank Ragnow go down as early as they went down. I was kind of scratching my head like, come on, Matt, pull him real quick. Like, you don't want him to get hurt, Like, he's got his rhythm. He seems like he's got a grasp of whatever this vanilla offense is that you want to run in this game. He performed. He scored his touchdown. Now let's go. Let's get him out of this game. And they kind of kept throwing him out there. But I think he needed to play. I think it was good for him, and I just kind of point to that game. If you look at that first quarter, he looked rough. He really seemed to get things going by the beginning of that second quarter, and he seemed to kind of slot in and get a little bit of his groove going. So I think he needed the game reps. I was happy he played, as I think the fans that were at Ford Field were happy that he played. You covering the game, I'm sure it was satisfying for you to watch him play. I don't know exactly how you feel, if you wanted him in that game or not. Were you upset that he played, especially after seeing a guy like Jared Davis go down as early as he went down?
I thought the perfect time to take him out was after that touchdown pass to Ty Johnson. I thought it was a good opportunity. He threw in a nice pass. You get to score, take him out, but they played him a series or two after that. So, look, with Matthew Stafford, you could tell the joy that he experienced playing. He's a guy that's like, look, put me in, and I don't believe in those that are saying that he's hurt. He looks healthy. He looks like a guy that potentially is ready to go to start the 2019 season, but at the end of the day, a quarterback is only as good as his offensive line, and if there's any disruption, and if Matthew Stafford is going to be sacked as much as he did, you could be looking at an Andrew Luck situation where in 2 years he's like, forget this, get me out of here, because the guy has to be upright. He has to be protected this year. He took a lot of sacks in the last 3 seasons, man, a lot, and it's a situation where Matthew Stafford, to be the best guy that he can be, to be utilized effectively, he's got to be upright, given a little bit of time, and to have a solid running back. So I think they're poised to do it, and this is a big year for him. At the end of the day, this will be his 4th or 5th offense that he's ran. If he can't run this one, eventually speaking, then even the haters have to say, all right, there's no quarterback, that's going to be given 6, 7, 8, 9 different offensive coordinators in his career. Maybe the Lions will. They'll be like, okay, there's got to be that one offensive coordinator. There's got to be that one offense that we can find that this guy can run. Eventually speaking, they'll say, you know what? Maybe ding, ding. Maybe this guy can't run any offense. Maybe, hopefully, if Darrell Bevell has the key for success, he unlocks it this year because we're all damn waiting for it.
Hey, you brought up Andrew Luck. Can we talk about that real quick?
That was crazy.
How surprised were you when that news broke?
That was crazy.
I was at a barbecue with my wife. She was introducing me to some of her work friends, and I was trying not to make an ass out of myself because you know how I do. That news came across, and all the guys were all looking at our phone, and like everybody plays fantasy football, right? So all the guys are like making moves immediately, trying to adjust their lineup and trying to do whatever they have to do to protect themselves here. And that was nuts, man. It was absolutely crazy. We got home a little bit early from that barbecue, and I was able to catch the end of his press conference on NFL Network. And I was just like, holy hell. Like, it to me, it's sad. It really is sad because Andrew Luck is a guy who came into this league with all the talent in the world. He was supposed to be a generational quarterback. And if you look at kind of what he did, you could say, yeah, he kind of lived up to some of that hype, but I feel like he just fell short and he was just derailed by injuries. And I understand rehabbing all the time. This guy has been beat up the majority of his career. Having to constantly rehab yourself and get yourself to a position where you're like, all right, I can go, or at least I think I can go, only to get back out there to get hurt again. That sucks. It's just deflating. It's frustrating. It's not fun. So I understood it. I was surprised and I was shocked by it. I was blown away by it. I think the thing that really surprised and shocked me is how much of a class organization the Indianapolis Colts are. And I want to bring this back around to the Detroit Lions. Andrew Luck just signed a contract extension. The Indianapolis Colts are going to let him keep $24.8 million, I believe was the total, of his signing bonus. Not ask for any of it back. They could ask for it all back, and he'd have to give it all back. Unlike your Detroit Lions, who went after Calvin Johnson, who gave everything he had for 9 years and wanted $1 million back. It blows my mind how organizations run and how organizations are ran so different. That $1 million that the Lions asked for from Calvin Johnson, at the time, I understood it, right? They were up against the cap. They needed the cap relief. I get it. In the end, it's a bad look, and it hurts you long-term because nobody wants to come play in Detroit because they look at it as a scumbag, sleazebag organization who's low class because of moves like that, right? But it's totally within their right to ask for that money back because he didn't play. So I get it, and I got it. And at the time, I supported the Detroit Lions for doing it. But then you look at a guy like Andrew Luck, who has basically given everything he has to the Colts, and they're going to allow him to walk away with almost $25 million. You're just like, that's nuts, man. That is crazy.
That is a crazy number. And how much money do you got to have? And I was talking to Jason and Vito about it, and I said the same thing. You know, obviously, Andrew Luck jerseys sold a heck of a lot. It's an investment you can give that guy, but heck, I'm a guy that's in the camp of, look, I'm not going to ask for a big chunk back, but to just walk away with $24 million, that's unheard of. I would have said, look, give us back 11, you keep 13. Come on. You know, $25 million just to walk away is crazy, especially when we're giving you so much money. Give a little back. And who knows if they secretly did. But at the same time, I don't believe that Andrew Luck's ever going to play football again. When you check out mentally, how do you come back from that? Especially if you're a GM, you're just like, okay, this guy quit once. You're going to bring him back. Now, the joke is that maybe if there's a guy in Stamford, Connecticut that wants to load up in a year and say, look, Andrew, here's a boatload of cash. You can be my guy that flips from the NFL. That would be a major coup if the XFL, if it's around that long, if they get Andrew Luck, who obviously has some tie to some management, I think I read, in the XFL.
So his dad, Andrew Luck's dad, I believe is either a CEO or he's like a CFO of the XFL. He's a bigwig with the front office.
Yeah, so imagine if the XFL lands Andrew Luck.
Dude,
they should go for it.
It would be such a steal.
Yeah,
honestly, it would be such a steal for a startup football league to go out and grab a guy like that to flip him. I mean, you're bringing him out of retirement. You're not really flipping him, but you could spin it as you flipped him. You know,
exactly.
That's nuts, man. That would be absolutely crazy. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, maybe he takes a year off. Maybe he takes 2 years off. Maybe he joins the XFL. I was thinking the same thing. He just got $24 million to walk away, $25 million to walk away.
But
so he doesn't need money.
In terms of quarterbacks, and remember, a couple years back, we talked about it. Now, it's not happened a lot, but guys in their prime, you have to be prepared for it, listeners. You have to be prepared that, hey, if a top-end guy has $100 million, are you really motivated? If you and I were granted $6 million to do the podcast over the next 4 years, you think in year 3 and 4 we'd be like, yeah, let's grind it out. Let's keep reading. We'd be like, just popping a beer and being like, you know what? That $6 million was nice, bro. We're good. We made it. We wouldn't care as much. This guy's got imagine you have $100 million. You're not going to be as hungry. And when you're aching, you're just like, screw this. I can just go on a beach. I can live my life with $100 million. And then just imagine, we get $24 million and be like, yeah, screw it. I don't want to go to work anymore. I would do it too, because I spent a week in Florida, and I'm like, oh, because I never was a guy that was like a vacation guy. And I'd always judge. I'm like, I don't know why people take vacation. Just go to work. When you vacation the right way, you need to vacation. It's great. You just do nothing. You don't do much. You wake up, you eat, you go to the pool, and you do that for a week. It can, especially when you got to wake up and your routine is wake up at 5 a.m., lift weights, have some 500-pound guy want to, destroy you, and then you gotta have all these offenses that have like 50 words. You're like, dude, you're just mentally tired. He's like, I don't want to read any more playbooks. I don't want to call any more offenses. If you sit there and try, and if you watch these shows that talk about how a quarterback has to read these offenses, not only do you got to understand what the defense is doing, you got to also then relay it through all these coded words. It's a lot, and it can be mentally draining. When you got $100 million in the bank and you're hurting for the last 3 years and you just don't feel good, eventually speaking, I think he needs to get healthy, and he could probably do whatever he wants, whether it be politics, come back and broadcast. He can do whatever he wants, man. The guy's loaded. Taking an ass whooping every week from these offensive linemen and defensive linemen, forget it. It's not worth it.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, dude, the motivation kind of goes out the window. You basically just got $25 million to walk away, and before that, you had almost $100 million in the bank because of everything you've done for the last 8 years, 7, 8 years. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have that same drive. I think the drive and the desire to win a championship is always there for all these guys. And
everyone says it. Once you check out mentally, you got in football, you got to quit.
You got to go because it's so dangerous, because any play can be your last play. You just mentioned you get a 330-pound guy chasing you down or running at you trying to take your head off because he needs to put food on the plate for his family. Bro, believe me. I mean, how many guys make their names off of 1 or 2 plays. It happens all the time. You know what I'm saying? It could be the Indianapolis Colts versus Green Bay. This could be Rashawn Gary's time to shine, right? Him and his rookie camp. Andrew Luck drops back for a 7-yard drop back to pass it down the field to T.Y. Hilton. And Rashawn Gary catches the edge, and he's got a clear shot and just lights up Andrew Luck. Rashawn Gary's made. Do you know what I'm saying? His rookie year, he's made. And it's all because Andrew Luck was probably, at this moment in time, in this scenario, was thinking, I got to get this ball to T.Y. Hilton. Man, it'd be nice to be on the beach right now, maybe drinking a beer. Me and my neck beard just kind of hanging out. Maybe having a girl fluff my neck beard. It'd be cool. Maybe put some baby oil in there and grease it all up and make it look sexy. It'd be cool. Oh, crap, I just got smoked. Do you know what I'm saying? That's, and next thing you know, he's done. His career's in the hamper, and Rashawn Gary's over there dusting dirt off his shoulder like he's the second coming of Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Great Lions talk. Obviously, today they're going to play versus Cleveland, and I think we should pay attention to a couple competition battles, whether it be at linebacker, quarterback, running back. So definitely pay attention to it. There's stuff to see, and definitely Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Stay tuned to our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast for all the latest news and notes. Definitely, it's a fun time, man. It's getting closer. Brother, we're going to be talking and we're going to be previewing Lions, Arizona next week. I can't wait.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Season's right around the corner. This is the best time of year. This is the best time of year for us. I love this, man. I cannot wait for the season to get underway. This is going to be absolutely great.
Yes,
so
cause
stay tuned.
This Friday, Saturday, Michigan State, Michigan kick off their season. We're going to talk about that next. A lot of people chirping about both squads, and Doc and Jock are going to weigh in. Stay with us after we show love to a couple sponsors of the network. I want to tell you about the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. We thank them for sponsoring this edition of Doc and Jock, and for all information, go today and check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. And if you've agreed or disagreed with anything that we've said regarding the Lions, if you think my roster projections are terrible, head on over to Flick. All you got to do is, at your favorite app store, whether it be Google or iTunes, type in Flick Chat, and you're right there. You're in the mix. All you got to do is hit that plus button, and when it prompts you to hit the group code, type in all lowercase DSP, and you're in the group, and you can chat with us each and every day. We give insight. We give great links. We talk about the Detroit Lions, what we're seeing. We're talking roster projections. We're talking about who makes it. We're talking about, hey, what do you think about Zach Zenner? Is it a terrible decision? It's a great place to interact with all Detroit sports fans. It's Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, Flick Chat, a great sponsor of the network. All right, back on Doc and Jock. Looking forward to talking college football with you. Thanks to Mike Putnam. He's a guy that's like, I love it when you guys talk. He gets so mad when we cut it off. Look, I know you want us to talk for 2 and 3 hours about football, and damn near we could, but it's, we are time constrained now that we got other jobs, we got other things to do. But you get a solid hour of potent college football talk and National Football League talk here on Doc and Jock. And look, I don't want to talk to Adam more than I have to. An hour is more than I need to a week. Come on, man.
Dude, look, all those people out there, John is the type of guy who lives on his phone, and he blows me up on the regular. Go look at my Twitter. I don't even do anything on Twitter, hardly ever, but it's nothing but engagement from John all day long. So I talk to him all the time. Exactly. I don't need to talk to him any more than I need to.
Exactly. But we got to talk about Michigan because national
we got to
experts.
talk about Michigan State, too.
Yes, we do.
Don't forget.
But I think the hate is a little bit stronger on Michigan in terms of the national media. I love it where
That's all right. Let them all hate us. Let them all hate us. Hate us because you ain't us.
Exactly. I love when you scroll on Twitter, and definitely I'm on Twitter quite a bit. I love it.
You live there.
Yeah. I love it where I read a headline with a link. It says, "News. ESPN analysts agree Michigan and Michigan State won't make the college football playoff." Like, that's fucking news. It'd be news if it's only news if someone says they did make it. I love that. I should put that now. Breaking news. Go to Maven Sports. The Detroit Lions will not be in the Super Bowl. Bold prediction. But the nature of our talk is, should Michigan fans expect it? Is it something where, because of what you guys have observed with Michigan, that you don't expect them anymore to make it, that the program has let you down so much that all you're asking for is just beat Ohio State and just get to Indy? Is that the case? Is Paul Finebaum accurate in calling out Michigan fans, saying that they're whiny, sniveling, and that they don't expect Michigan to win anymore, and that they've actually lowered their expectations? He actually came out basically to the national audience. He called Michigan fans soft and bad fans.
Yeah, he did. And look, it's Paul Finebaum, and you take it with a grain of salt, and you just kind of move on with your day. 4 or 5 years ago, when he started all this, and him and Jim Harbaugh were going back and forth with each other, this would have got under my skin, would have made news. Now I'm just kind of like, all right, bro, whatever. Calling out Michigan fans and calling them whining and sniveling, I mean, I guess some. And look, I don't want to crush my own fan base here, but I will say about 35% of the fans in my fan base are whiny and sniveling, and they usually have either overinflated or underinflated expectations. They're the worst. I hate them. They suck. They're crap. I can't stand them. All right. The rest of us, we're pretty normal. We're good people. We don't beat anybody up. We don't call other people's names. The only people who we don't really like are Ohio State. Look, bro, you're a Michigan State fan. I love you. I do. And when Michigan State's not playing Michigan, I hope they perform well. I don't necessarily need you guys to have a 10-win season, but I don't want bad things to happen to you. Now, Ohio State, I want thunder and I want lightning and I want a flood to happen. And I want it to all happen inside the horseshoe, and I want everybody there to drown. That's just the way it is. I hate Ohio State. I hate everybody from Ohio State. They're the worst people ever. It's just kind of the way it is. Now, as far as Paul Finebaum calling Michigan fans whining and sniveling, yeah, like I said, 30% are. And I get that, and I understand that. And this is in regards to a phone call that he took on his radio show. So instantly, you're going to get an overzealous fan because he's calling a radio show. So that's number one. All right. So, Paul, check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself. All right. Number two, I don't think Michigan fans have lowered their expectations. If anything, me as a Michigan fan, I have elevated my expectations, and I think we're going to talk about this, but I'm expecting big things from the University of Michigan this year. I have nothing but high hopes. And the way I've got it figured out, and I kind of went through real quick, and I looked at how basically the top 5 in the Big Ten should play out from both sides, from both conferences. And the way I'm seeing it, I think Michigan's going to be number 1. Ohio State will probably be number 2. In the East, Michigan State will probably be number 3. Overall, I think Michigan State will be number 4. And it's just kind of how I see this season playing out. I have nothing but incredibly high hopes for Michigan, and I think Paul Finebaum can go pack sand.
Yeah, but at the same time, okay, obviously, let's discount who's delivering the message. Obviously, a guy that's pro SEC, and there is also a great business in riling up Michigan fans because it's a good way to get attention. I don't blame those, maybe even in Detroit, that constantly rail on Michigan to maybe get attention. I get it. We all get it. But at the same time, let's discount the guy delivering the message. But I think his message is fair. Not the part where he's calling the fans names and stuff like that. I think it's true. I believe that Michigan fans, rightfully so, shouldn't expect really much from Michigan because of the fact that, when you raise your expectation when you read everything and everything's great. You read and you say, oh, Shea Patterson potentially. Last year I read that someone close to us and close to the podcast said that potentially Shea Patterson could be a number 1 NFL draft pick. When everything's so great and you believe that, you naturally raise your expectation. And then when they fail to deliver year 1, 2, 3, 4 of Harbaugh, you get disappointed. So naturally speaking, the right thing to do, and Michigan fans, this is what you should do, you should expect nothing. You should expect, when the pro-Michigan people come out and say, oh, this guy looks good, this guy looks this guy looks amazing, Shea Patterson's going to run this new offense, the best of all time. You should say, show me versus Ohio State. That should be your attitude. Your attitude this year, 2019, show me. Period. That's the right attitude to have, because if you come into this season telling me that you expect them to win, I'm just going to laugh at you. And I'm going to say, based on what? Because you're a fan? No, you should demand that this team show you something before you raise your expectation. And so, for a Michigan fan, I think the natural expectation should be nothing.
Look, what? You can't have that expectation. You as a Michigan State fan, what are your expectations for this year? You don't have any expectations? You're coming off an absolutely abysmal season.
Here's my expectation.
You can't tell me that you have no expectations. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I have expectation. My expectation for Michigan State is top 8 defense and an offense that in the key game probably is going to struggle, which is going to result in 1 bad loss and potentially 2 or 3 losses in the season. I don't expect no championships. I don't expect them to be an Indy. I don't expect them to beat their rivals. I don't expect that. Now, would it be awesome if they delivered that? I'd be way up in the clouds and be happy. But that's my expectation is 8-9 wins and ceiling maybe 10. That's my expectation. For Michigan fans, you're telling me that a realistic expectation for Michigan, based on what you've seen, Jim Harbaugh's coaching, all the departures, and the new coach and the new offense, is to win the Big Ten and defeat Ohio State. Yeah, yes. That's logical. That's logical.
No, it really is, though. Because if you look at the lay of the land, right? Look at the University of Michigan. Yes, they've lost a lot of key pieces on defense, but that defense has reloaded, and it's a little bit faster. All right, so it's quicker than it was last year. Now, having to make up some of that production, they still have guys who are very productive from last year stepping into monster roles this year. So there's not going to be a huge letdown defensively. Offensively, you are incorporating a new offense, and yes, that's a big deal, all right? You're incorporating a new offense, but you have a second-year quarterback, right, who played very, very well last year. On top of that, you have 3 NFL-caliber wide receivers on this team, all right? And your offensive line, yes, you're a little bit banged up with I believe it was your right tackle who goes down with an ACL injury, but your offensive line should take a step forward, and it should be better this year. So I think as a unit, as a team, I think they are a step ahead of where they were last year. Now let's look at Ohio State, because Ohio State seems to be the big crutch that everybody's sticking to, right? Ohio State has to have a lot go right for it. Ohio State lost a lot last year too. They put a lot of guys in the NFL. So now they have to reload. On top of that, they have a new quarterback, and they're very, very thin at quarterback. So they need their quarterback to stay healthy. On top of that, they have a brand new head coach who it's his first year really taking over that entire program. So he's got to make sure everything is running to a T. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes guys just can't step in and take things over and start running them as optimally as the former guy was doing. And the former guy is a Hall of Fame coach who, say what you will about him, whether he's a cheater or not, the guy is still an amazing head coach. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, look at I want to draw a comparison to a guy like Matt Patricia. You would agree Matt Patricia's second year is much better than Matt Patricia's first year. And that's because Matt Patricia had to take a little bit of a learning curve to get caught up to speed. Ryan Day could do the same thing. Ryan Day could do the same exact thing. And then after that, Michigan's got a really tough schedule. They really do. They have a very difficult schedule. And I think the one game that can really trip them up is Notre Dame. But after that, I have Michigan making the Big Ten championship. Those are my expectations, just because it's a team that is bringing a lot of pieces back. It's a new offense that is supposed to help utilize what are the strengths of this team's offense. That defense I see taking a step forward and being much quicker, much faster, much more in your face. I think their defensive coordinator, Don Brown, learned his lesson about those slant routes, and I think he's kind of figured a few things out. I don't think he's going to get embarrassed again this year, not like he was last year. And I think your head coach, Jim Harbaugh, I think him taking a step back from running the offense, I think it puts him in a more advantageous spot to be able to run this team more optimally and to have a better pulse on what's going on. And when he has to get involved, he will now jump in and get involved instead of having to run the offense, let Don Brown run things with defense. No. I think that hurt this team last year, especially in that Ohio State game, because Jim Harbaugh was the guy who was basically in charge of that offense, and Don Brown's getting picked apart left and right on defense, and Jim Harbaugh couldn't get his head up because he's trying to figure out how to crack Ohio State's defense, whereas now he's kind of overseeing all of it. So when Don Brown starts struggling a little bit or slipping, he can run over to Don Brown and be like, hey, fix this real quick, do this, do that. And then as far as the offense is going, he can run over to Gaddis and say, hey, Gaddis, maybe we should run a run play here just to maybe throw them off a little bit. You know, it's now becomes more mental for him, and he's now thinking 3 steps ahead of the game instead of being in the sinkhole and trying to figure his way out of it. I think this team, it's primed. I think this is the year for the University of Michigan. I think the University of Michigan wins the Big Ten championship, and I think they make the playoff. Tell me I'm crazy. It's okay. I don't believe in Ohio State. I don't believe in Ohio State. I don't believe in anything else that the Big Ten's going to throw. I don't believe in Nebraska. I don't believe in Wisconsin. I sure as hell don't believe in Michigan State. I think they're going to be good. Like you said, anywhere between 8 and 10 wins. That's kind of where I'm at with this team. After that, what do you got?
Well, I'll say this, cuz expectations and goals are 2 different things. If you expect that, I'm saying here, I can tell you in August, you have a higher likelihood of disappointment at the end of the year than you would if you just said, I need.
That's okay. The last 4 years have been disappointing. I don't give a shit anymore. These are my expectations. This is how I'm running into the season. Ever since Harbaugh's been here, I've been disappointed.
Now, what do you make of Jim Harbaugh's strategy? Because early on, one of the most pressing questions is who's going to play quarterback. He's open to the idea of playing 2. What's Michigan Nation think?
Dude, we talked a little bit about it last week, right? And I don't mind, but I don't like it. I really do not like it because what do they say? They say if you have 2 quarterbacks, then you have no quarterbacks, right? I believe it should be you have 1 quarterback and you go with that 1 quarterback. And last year he ran 2 quarterbacks for a little bit, and in the end, Dylan McCaffrey ended up getting hurt, and he ends up getting sidelined in the Penn State game. So, I mean, I don't like running 2 quarterbacks. I've never been a huge fan of running 2 quarterbacks. I think Urban Meyer probably ran 2 quarterbacks the best back when he had Tim Tebow and Chris. I can't remember his name right now. He was the black guy at Florida. Anyways, Urban Meyer probably ran it the best. And he utilized those guys, Chris Leak, I think, utilized those guys to their best abilities. But man, I do not like it. And the thing is, it's not even like they're really similar as far as body style goes. You've got Shea Patterson, who's roughly my height, maybe 5'10". He's a little bit elusive. And then you've got Dylan McCaffrey, who's a little bit taller. He's like 6'2". So it becomes a little bit different where the ball comes out, how much velocity is on the ball. So as a wide receiver, it becomes a little bit different when you're looking at that angle where the ball is coming from. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I understand why he's going to do it. I don't know if it's the best idea to do it, but we'll see what happens. I'm expecting to have 2 quarterbacks play quite a bit this year myself. And I think it's going to be more of one of those things where you've got Shea Patterson playing early. They get a bit of a lead, and next thing you know, McCaffrey comes in and seals the deal. And then after all of that, you can maybe put Milton in, or you can run in one of your other blue chippers that are on your bench if you have a large enough lead. That's kind of how I see this playing out.
Okay. Do you eventually see this ending? You see eventually that Michigan has to decide on one quarterback. I've never seen a two-quarterback system really do a whole heck of a lot, and I just don't understand why. What's the purpose of the preseason? You can't decide in terms of who's better. That really kind of indicates that, hey, what's going on in coaching? You can't, there's a competition battle, and usually a battle should result in one winner.
It should. It really should. I think at some point they will have to settle on one quarterback, especially if you're going to go play in the playoff. You're going to have to. I don't understand how you can't. I just don't know how that would work out. I mean, look at what happened with Clemson last year. Clemson early in the year made the switch, and it worked out great for them. It was one of those things where, look, we can't play two quarterbacks. We're not going to play two quarterbacks. This quarterback gives us our best shot. We're going to go with him. Alabama tried playing two quarterbacks. It really didn't work. Some games Jalen Hurts played better. Other games Tunga Tuivasa-Vailoa played better. So in the end, it was Tua who got the nod, and Jalen Hurts had to go. I think he's in Oklahoma now, or he's at Texas A&M. But in the end, you have to decide on one. You can't run two quarterbacks. It doesn't work that way, and I think they're going to have to do that.
Oh, man, it's going to be a good time. I can't wait. I'll be in the press box on Saturday evening under the lights at the Big House. It'll be a good time, man, versus Middle Tennessee. Hopefully, man, hey, to be honest, I hope there's a big upset. That'd be kind of a great story. And speaking, I hope Michigan loses. That'd be great. To kick off this season, be the biggest story of all time.
You're the worst.
Switching our attention to East Lansing. There's been a little bit of buzz surrounding Michigan State. I know that defense, obviously, many people view and believe that the defense will rank highly. The biggest question mark, again, to talk about it is that offense. But I think if Brian Lewerke can be healthy, we are starting to see signs in terms of betting. There's some people putting some action down that Michigan State will actually have a good season. So I think expectations for Michigan State are raising a little bit, but I'm wondering a little bit why, because I'm in the same boat like I am talking about Michigan. I think Michigan State has to show me. I talked to Jason earlier on the Motor City Sports Rant podcast that drops every single Tuesday. I said that if Mark D'Antonio doesn't show it this year, it's time to maybe look elsewhere, because I, quite frankly, at this point in time, am categorizing Mark D'Antonio as Les Miles, a guy that's not changing with the times, a guy that has a single strength but won't adapt. And in order for Michigan State to take that next level, they have to include a modern offense that spreads the ball out, scores a bunch of points, and can do some things. I'm not down with the idea that you just run the ball, and have this controlled offense. I think you got to spread it out. You got to, call some plays where, hey, you extend that defense and you throw the ball deep. And I don't know if Michigan State, everyone's saying, hey, what if they actually become average? I have a huge question mark whether they will.
Yeah, I have some concerns as well, whether or not they become average. Look, the one thing Mark D'Antonio has done well is he does a very good job recruiting wide receivers and then recruiting guys and getting the absolute most out of them. I think you can say Mark D'Antonio can basically take rocks and stones and turn it into wine. He's done it before. I think he'll do it again. I think he's a hell of a coach. All that being said, I'm not really sure what this team is, especially offensively. Defensively, I think we know. Defensively, this is a top 10 team. Defensively, this is going to be a very good team this year. Can that offense not shoot this team in the foot repeatedly? Can this offense not put this team and put that defense in a spot where they're playing on a short field, or put this defense in a spot where they basically have their backs against the wall and are on the field all the damn time? And I don't know. I have no idea, because you've had two Brian Lewerkes in his career. Which Brian Lewerke are we going to get? What have those moves and those changes that have been made on offense as far as that coaching staff goes? What have they done? Were they impactful? Will they be impactful? How will they impact this offense? And we just don't know. We just don't know. We don't know how it's going to work. We don't know if it's going to work out. So there's a ton of questions here. The one thing you can say, and history points to this, Mark D'Antonio does a fantastic job on a rebound season. He does a fantastic job.
And I think that's part of the reason why expectations are raising is that people see that, hey, there's a challenge put in front of D'Antonio and he can meet it.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys too where he loves the chip on his shoulder. You know, if it isn't right, if it isn't rough, it isn't right. That's kind of his motto. It's kind of what he does with his team. And bouncing back from a dismal season, the guy shines. And I think this is a year where if you're a Michigan State fan, like I said, my expectations are you're probably going to have 9 or 10 wins. 8 wins is kind of hedging my bet, but 9 or 10, I could see you having a 9 or 10 win season. I could totally see you ending in third in the East, or actually ending in third in the East, just behind Ohio State. Overall, I think Michigan State in the Big Ten finishes 4th, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, I mean, coming into this season, not knowing what you have as far as an offense. I mean, if I told you were going to finish 4th in the Big Ten and it was going to be a close contested race, I think you would take that. This could be one of Mark D'Antonio's finer coaching seasons, and I believe that.
Okay. Before we get out of here, give me one bold prediction you have for Michigan.
Making it to the college football playoff doesn't count, eh?
That would be bold.
That's bold. That's what I think. I firmly believe it. All my blue fans out there, I believe the University of Michigan makes it to the college football playoff this year. They win the Big Ten, and they get the nod. Whether they be the 3rd or 4th team, they get the nod. Again, I think Clemson, Alabama will probably be 1-2. It's going to be for those 3 and 4 spots. I don't know if you get by Clemson or Alabama, but you get to the college football playoff.
Oh, my bold prediction for Michigan State, they're going to have that disappointing season that we all see. But in that disappointing season, meaning there's going to be one loss where you're going to be like, what the hell's going on? Why did Mark D'Antonio pass here when he could have ran it? Or why did they make this decision? Or this offense is too conservative. There'll be a bad loss in the mix. But they will go to Ann Arbor in the game where it means the most to them, and they're going to defeat Michigan by 21 points or more. They're going to go in there, and they're going to potentially shut out Michigan. In Ann Arbor, they're going to roll up in there with all the hatred. That's all the season's going to represent to Michigan State is they're going to play that video of Michigan disrespecting them and stomping on the field. And so my bold prediction, the final score of the Michigan State game is going to be Michigan State 42, Michigan 0.
What was it? 42-0?
42-0. Michigan State will take out all their anger in Ann Arbor, and it's going to be a rout. R-O-U-T, baby.
That's not even real. It's not even real life.
That's bold. That's a bold prediction because of the fact that, hey, when you disrespect Mark D'Antonio, he's going to come for the jugular, baby, and I can't wait for that game in Ann Arbor. It's going to come quick. It's going to be here.
All right, dude. You're out of your mind.
With that, let's end this edition of Doc and Jock. I love it. College football's back. We're going to watch it. We're going to watch NFL football pretty soon. Can't wait to break it all down. Thanks to all our supporters. Thanks to everybody that's been downloading episode 317 coming to a close. We'll talk soon. Later, cuz.
Peace.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. It didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.